In terms of the animated and live-action drama seen going down on screens across the galaxy far, far away, each of these unquestionably cool moves and abilities all memorably popped up once before never being seen ever again. Gareth here from What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 Star Wars power moves we've only seen once. Number 10, Force Projection, Episode 8, The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi debuted a first on-screen look at the brilliant Force power known as Force Projection late on, with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren and his First Order targeting what was left of the Resistance on Crate. Luke Skywalker suddenly arrives to save the day. However, as the one-time Master and Apprentice engage in a duel on the sandy terrain, the one-time Ben Solo soon realizes he's not clashing with a present Skywalker at all. Instead, Luke used extreme focus and concentration to project himself halfway across the galaxy through the Force in his bid to buy Leia and her pals some time to escape the planet. But using this awesome power came at a cost. In the wake of spending several minutes putting his all into distracting Ren as a younger looking version of himself, Skywalker actually ended up dying and becoming one with the Force. And no one has ever been shown trying to replicate the Son of the Chosen One's immense projection feat ever since. Number 9, Pyrokinesis, Star Wars Rebels. The most formidable force of evil in the galaxy didn't half of a few tricks up his droopy sleeves, and one of the many one-time showcases of his unlimited power actually went down in the middle of Ezra Bridger's trip into the world between worlds. With Kanan Jarrus' Padawan and Ahsoka Tano trying to navigate this mystical plane during Rebels Season 4's A World Between Worlds episode, the two are soon joined by Darth Sidious himself. That portal arrival was made possible through Sith sorcery, but Palps was not done there. Whilst using a Sith ritual altar, the Emperor was actually able to manipulate and conjure up fire energy, with said ability looking rather similar to the pyrokinesis seen in Star Wars Legends stories. This blue fire wasn't simply a hot way to dispose of one's enemies either. As seen during the episode, Palpatine was actually able to seize hold of Bridger via this energy, and that connection then allowed the Dark Lord of the Sith to enter the Vergent Scatter. Tano was ultimately able to briefly block the flames and sever said connection with her lightsabers in the end. But for a minute there, this one-off ability looked like it could spell real trouble for our Force-sensitive heroes. Number 8, the prototype B-6 Starfighter's cruiser-killing laser beam, Star Wars Rebels. Sticking with the animated source of joy that is Star Wars Rebels, Season 2's Wings of the Master episode also brought with it one hell of a rare power move. Rather than being a case of a Jedi or Sith tapping into the Force to produce a staggering display of power though, on this occasion it was a Starfighter showing off its ability to unleash insane power, with Harrison Dula eventually convincing the Mon Calamari known as Quarry to let her pilot his prototype B-6 Starfighter, aka the Blade Wing. The Rebel Legends' early tests of the ship's firepower on Shantipole showcased how this heavy assault machine could deal out some serious damage. So when the Twi'lek finally arrived to assist her pals late in the episode, the sight of an entire command cruiser being blown out of the sky thanks to just one blast of the B-6 Starfighter's hyperdrive-powered composite beam laser didn't come as too much of a surprise to fans, though it certainly caught the Imperial blockade above Ibar off guard. But rather than use this cruiser-killing piece of weaponry again in the wake of helping get supplies to the people of Ibar, the B-6's composite beam laser was never actually seen at any other point in the series. What a waste! Number 7, Force Drain, Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. A back-from-the-dead Darth Sidious was once again completely outgunning his adversaries during the closing stages of The Rise of Skywalker. On the back of somehow returning early on in Episode 9, Palpatine can eventually be found unleashing the first ever on-screen look at the ability to completely drain a Force user of their power. Not long after uniting to take down the sinister Big Bad, Sidious grips both Rey and Ben Solo before realizing that the life force of the pair's bond was capable of restoring him to full power. And sure enough, the despicable Sith Lord proceeds to drain both his granddaughter and Darth Vader's grandson of their Force energy until he once again looks like a slightly less wrinkled zombie pensioner. But even a fully recharged Sidious was no match for a Rey channeling the power of all the Jedi, with this one-off draining maneuver still not being able to keep Palps from being horrifically obliterated by his own Force lightning in the end. And speaking of which, number 6, Force Storm, Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Fresh off of absorbing the Force energy present in the Force dyad known as Ben Solo and Rey, Darth Sidious decided to flex his recently restored muscles in The Rise of Skywalker. So after batting away Solo like an annoying Force-sensitive fly, Palpatine takes a seat on his rather excessive throne and proceeds to fire his trusty Force lightning from his fingers. Only this time, rather than just a few flickers of painful electricity shooting out of his mitts, an entire lightning storm erupts from his hands, with this ridiculous show of power taking out numerous ships fighting in the exegol sky. And while this Force storm had been used by the likes of Darth Bane and Revan in Legends continuity, Sidious's Episode 9 Tempest, one which disabled 14,000 resistant ships with apparent ease, still sits as the only ever big screen example of such a terrific display of lightning carnage. There's going out with a bang, and then there's Darth Sidious's ridiculously explosive last hurrah, an end boasting not one but two one-time only showcases of typically outrageous power. Number 5. Dropping the Electro-Proton Bomb, The Clone Wars. Another example of staggering power only ever seen during a single episode of animated Star Wars goodness, the Republic's decision to proceed with deploying their power move by the name of the Electro-Proton Bomb in their attempts to acquire the fuel found on Malastare during the Clone Wars had some rather disastrous consequences. As the likes of Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker watched their clone forces and the Dugs struggle to overcome the Separatist forces on Malastare, the decision was made to drop said powerful weapon on their enemy. The Electro-Proton Bomb wouldn't harm any living beings, only emitting an electromagnetic field that would take down droids in its vicinity. And that's exactly what went down when it was finally dropped in the Xylo Beast Season 2 episode. But as that title suggests, it also just so happened to disturb the planet's ecosystem and wake up a destructive beast that the Dugs had believed was extinct, the Xylo Beast. So while the Electro-Proton Bomb certainly achieved what it was designed to do, the fact it also took out the Republic's electrical equipment and woke up a near indestructible creature are probably just a few of the reasons this particular power move wasn't used again going forward. Number 4. The Starkiller Base Blast, Episode 7 The Force Awakens. Time and time again, the Empire showcased the ability to completely wipe out cities or even entire planets with their trusty Death Star Kyber Crystal powered super laser. But the First Order took things to a whole new level during the events of The Force Awakens. After building a pretty impressive base on the ice planet of Ilum, it was eventually revealed that said world came equipped with the mother of all super weapons. This particular super laser was charged up by the base consuming an entire sun, and in the first and only ever test of its firepower, General Armitage Hux ordered the weapon to be fired on the entire Hosnian system. What came next is up there as one of the most devastating attacks in Star Wars history, as the laser shot across the galaxy and completely destroyed a large chunk of the New Republic. Thankfully, the mega weapon and the base itself were blown to pieces before it could fire on the Resistance base planet of Dakar, but its one and only shot still made its mark on the galaxy far, far away. Number 3. Force Dash, Episode 1 The Phantom Menace. Force users have regularly been seen displaying some rather impressive feats of athleticism throughout the Skywalker saga and various Star Wars TV offerings over the years. Yet while incredible Force jumps and mesmerizing reflexes have been showcased on countless occasions, the ability to suddenly get out of dodge at a frightening pace has only ever happened on screen on one occasion in canon, as Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi look to have been cornered by a set of droidicas on a Trade Federation ship early on in The Phantom Menace. The two decide to abandon the standoff via Force Dash. It's remarkably effective, even if it did drain the Force wielder of their energy when overused. That's what makes the fact it doesn't show up again at any point in the movies so damn bizarre. The closest thing fans got to this sort of Force Dash reappearing in the prequels came when Darth Sidious fired himself at the Jedi Masters trying to arrest him in Revenge of the Sith. And outside of Mace Windu also famously using this power move during the original Star Wars Clone Wars animation that eventually wasn't classed as part of the new canon, this awesome Force skill was never really seen being used by a Jedi on screen again after The Phantom Menace. Number 2. The Holdo Maneuver, Episode 8 The Last Jedi. As the final two entries on this list will demonstrate, suddenly blasting off into hyperspace is quite the power move indeed. Perhaps the most high profile of these high-speed collisions / maneuvers came during The Last Jedi, with Vice Admiral Amelin Holdo pulling off a resistance-saving feat whilst aboard the Raddus. In an attempt to keep the First Order fleet from attacking the Resistance members trying to flee to Crate, Holdo decided to face down the Supremacy Mega-class Star Dreadnought, which is also the coolest sounding ship of all time, and after firing up the apparatus's hyperdrive and lining up her target, HOLDO managed to execute a move that saw the cruiser split straight through the supremacy just before it would have moved from real space to hyperspace. An eternally gorgeous visual of First Order destruction. On top of the supremacy being ripped in two before the bad guys could react to the masterful attack, a further 20 Star Destroyers close by were also shredded by the maneuver. It is worth noting that another Star Destroyer was seemingly destroyed via this sort of move above Endor in The Rise of Skywalker. But The Last Jedi still possesses the only official occasion fans have actually witnessed the beautifully explosive moment of HOLDO maneuver impact. Number 1. PURGIL blasting a Star Destroyer off a planet. Star Wars Rebels. If you didn't catch the 4-season chunk of joy that was Star Wars Rebels, you've likely found yourself wondering what the hell happened to the Grand Admiral Thrawn everyone has been banging on about in The Mandalorian. Throughout that aforementioned animated series, the mighty Chiss Imperial officer routinely got the better of the likes of Ezra Bridger and his pals, and seemed to be a near unstoppable force. His ruthlessness eventually saw him bombard Lothal in the final episode of the series, a move that left Ezra Bridger with no choice but to surrender to the Blue Menace. But this lad had a plan just in case things looked somewhat bleak. With the Jedi being shown to possess the ability to communicate with creatures during the series, Bridger had his rebel pals send out a signal on frequency 0, which would bring the space whale beast known as the Purgill into the fight. And when the massive living beings, along with a few Purgill Ultras, eventually showed up to take out Thrawn's blockade, Bridger's bold final move took a hold of his longtime enemy. Using the Force to harness the Purgill's ability to naturally blast themselves off into hyperspace, the freedom fighter managed to save his homeworld and his friends from Thrawn, his Chimera Star Destroyer, and the rest of his forces. Though he was also dragged into hyperspace during this heroic act. But it looks like Ezra's awesome one-off power move only managed to temporarily save the galaxy from this formidable leader, with both Bridger and Thrawn's returns finally set to go down in the upcoming Ahsoka series. And that's our list. Know of any other Star Wars power moves we've only seen once? Well, let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and don't forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're down there. Also, if you're into this sort of stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. Cheers for stopping on by today. Be sure to do it again sometime, but more importantly, have yourself the best of days. See you later!